الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد. In our previous class we had begun reading the chapter the author he mentioned rahimahullah ta'ala آداب تعليمه آداب تعليمه, the etiquettes and the manners of the teacher while he is teaching. And we had read a number of benefits with regards to this that the author had mentioned rahimahullah ta'ala. We continue and he says, now discussing his methodology and the way of teaching, his manners while he is teaching. Some of that has preceded. Now the issue is about his tariqah al-tadris wa asalibuhu fihi. The issue now is about his manners of how he's teaching and the pathways that he takes and the means that he uses while he is teaching. So he says, وَيَنْبَغِي أَنْ يَكُونَ بَاذِلًا وُسْعَهُ فِي تَفْهِيمِهِمْ وَتَقْرِيبَ الْفَائِدَةِ إِلَى أَذْهَانِهِمْ حَرِيصًا عَلَى هِدَايَتِهِمْ. So he says now that it is incumbent for the teacher to do his best to try to help them to understand, that he will strive his best and give his best effort to try to help the students to understand, and making the benefit easy for them and close to their minds. And easy for them, meaning close to them, meaning that it's not hard and difficult, and it will be simple for them to understand. And he should be diligent likewise. He should be diligent likewise to be a means of guidance for them. To be a means of guidance for them. So now he's discussing this affair. From his manners, the manners of the teacher, is that he's striving his best to benefit the students, those who are learning with him. That he would do his best effort to make the proper preparations and to deliver the knowledge in the clearest and most easy manner, without making it difficult and without making it hard. Rather, he will try his best to facilitate that by using the words that the students will understand properly, and by building them little by little. And the intent from at-ta'lim in the first place, maqsood at-ta'lim إيصال الخير للناس, and the whole intent from teaching and education and cultivation and giving sincere advice and direction is that to help the people understand the truth and realize that and follow it, to spread the good through the lands. So therefore it's incumbent for the teacher to choose the easiest and most facilitated manners and ways to teach and to make it simplified for them as much as he can, striving to help the guidance enter into their hearts. And in the end he knows that the fact that it enters into their hearts is in the hands of Allah, but he will take the means and he will give his best effort. So now he's making examples of this, and he says, وَيُفْهِمُ كُلَّ وَاحِدٍ بِحَسَبِ فَهْمِهِ وَحِفْظِهِ فَلَا يُعْطِيهِ مَا لَا يَحْتَمِلُهُ وَلَا يَكْسُرُ بِهِ عَمَّا يَحْتَمِلُهُ بِلَا مَشَقَّةٍ. So he will try to help each individual student understand according to his level of understanding and according to the capacity of his memorization, meaning that the students are on different levels. And whenever he's teaching one individually, he will look at that and he will take that into consideration, and he will speak to each one accordingly and directly. Those who are elders, they will be addressed as elders, and those who are younger from the youth, they'll be addressed in that manner, which will be most beneficial for them to help them understand. And many times we will find in Al-Islam that the knowledge is all one. The knowledge that is presented to the youth and the knowledge that is presented to the elders, this is all one knowledge. There's only one creed. There's only one manner to pray, and the likes like this. The tahara and the rulings and the likes, they're all one. But what will differ many times is the manner of presentation of the knowledge. So those who are younger, they will be taught about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in general, the same information that those are elders. Al-Imanu Billah will be addressed to them in the same and with the same issues, but the manner that is delivered will be slightly different in order for each one to understand. So this likewise is from the wisdom of knowledge. And this is what he's referring to here. although there could be greater details, and after those foundations are laid, greater details that no doubt the youth will not be addressed with, but the elders, after have learning and building a foundation, they can discuss and delve into accordingly. But now is to recognize the understanding and the comprehension and the level of each student, and to teach them accordingly. So he will not give them that which they cannot bear, and he will also not deprive them of that which they can handle, without any hardship. This issue was discussed yesterday, and this is from the means of being a good teacher, to recognize the student and his level, and to keep them moving, to give them enough that they will keep learning and growing on the path of seeking knowledge. If one gives the student too much, it will be a burden for him, and it will weigh him down, and eventually he will not be able to continue. And if one did not give the student too much, then the knowledge would become boring for him, or this particular lesson would not be interesting anymore, and he will find another teacher, or he will leave seeking knowledge likewise. So therefore the teacher, he must recognize this affair is similar like food for the body. Whenever a person, he gives the child too much food, it will harm him. And if he doesn't give the child enough food, it will also harm him and not benefit him. But the person, he will feed the child according to what it needs to be nutritious and to be healthy and to be strong. So likewise, the student, similarly in this manner like this with regards to knowledge, to give his soul and his heart and his mind the knowledge that will keep him moving and growing, and that will not deter him or stop him or slow down his education and his benefit and his tarbiyah. This is something the teacher, he keeps in mind. He says, وَيُخَاطِبُ كُلَّ وَاحِدٍ عَلَى قَدْرِ دَرَجَتِهِ وَبِحَسَبِ فَهْمِهِ وَهِمَّتِهِ. And the teacher likewise, he will address every student according to his level, and according to his understanding, and according likewise to his determination and desire to learn. According to his determination and desire to learn. He says, فَيَكْتَفِي بِالْإِشَارَةِ لِمَنْ يَفْهَمُهَا فَهْمًا مُحَقَّقًا ويوضح العبارة لغيره ويكررها لمن لا يحفظها إلا بتكرار. So he says now he will suffice with indicating to certain issues if the student, he understands precisely what is intended. Sometimes the teacher, he will know that which the student has learned, because he is his teacher, especially if he is teaching him for some time. So he'll be aware of the level of the student. And there are some issues that will come in more than one place in the lesson, or in more than one chapter in the book, and it will be repeated but from a different aspect. So if that foundation was laid down previously in the previous classes before, and then it's mentioned again, then sometimes the teacher, he will suffice with just indicating that, or reminding of that affair, and pointing to those details that had preceded in a previous class, without taking the time now to repeat all of those details again. This is in the case whenever the teacher believes that the student, he understood that in the first place. So now he will suffice with just indicating this affair, and he knows that the student understands what he has intended. He understands what he has intended. As for in the case of other than the student, of other than him, and from the students who were not so strong, or did not understand the issue properly, or it appeared to him that from their faces, for example, they did not remember the mas'ala entirely and properly, he will repeat it for them. He will take his time there and repeat it for them in order for them to understand and to recollect. And likewise, he will clarify for them in order for them to understand it clearly and to recollect. And for those who are not able to learn properly and to memorize the issues except by repetition, he will repeat that for them. He will repeat that for them, and he over and over, and until after some time it will be memorized, and it will be firm in their minds. So maybe one time a teacher, he will teach the students a particular issue or mas'ala, and then again in another class, days or months later, or even in another book, the same mas'ala will come. So if the students, they understood that properly, he will pass by that briefly, and if they did not understand that properly, he will repeat it again and go into detail. And even sometimes, if it's very important, he will remind them of that and go into details again until this issue is affirmed. And the Islamic knowledge is like this. Al-ulum al-shar'iyyah mutadakhila. And it's all connected, and it's interlocked, and it supports each other. If you learn usul al-fiqh, and if you learn mustalah hadith, all of these affairs here, they're interlocked with understanding the rulings of the legislation, and the benefits that are derived from the tafsir, and likewise the fiqh that is derived from the hadith. They all coincide together. They all coincide together. So you'll study one subject in this science, and then if you move to this science, you'll study it again. You'll study it again from a different aspect, or even from the application of what you learned over here, you will apply it over here, and the likes like this. So the knowledge is interlocked and it supports each other. So many times these issues will be repeated, or many times a person who is teaching, the teacher, he's teaching, maybe he'll teach in the beginning an easy book, for example, about Aqidah. It will be from the beginning books, and he will teach that. Then as they move along, they'll study another book of Aqidah, but it'll be in the next level. The Aqidah is one, it doesn't change. The Aqidah is one, it doesn't change. So many of the issues that preceded, they'll be mentioned again, but now there'll be more details added along with that. Or now the methodologies of the people of desires will be mentioned briefly along with that, in order to clarify the falsehood in more detail now. So the issues may come again, and he will repeat that for those who need that to be repeated. And he will clarify that again the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time, for those who did not understand properly before. As for those students that are along with him, that he believes or sees from them that they understood, he will just mention that affair briefly and keep on going. So this is likewise from the wisdom of the teacher, to be able to identify the level of the student in order not to harm him in his time. So one thing that is most important in seeking knowledge is preserving and maintaining the time. So the teacher, he does not want to waste his time, nor does he want to waste the student's time. So if it's something that the student has already mastered and he understands well, he will not spend time repeating that over and over for him. Rather, he will just indicate that and keep on moving to that which is more beneficial for this particular student. This is the case whenever the students are learning individually or in small groups. As for whenever the class is general and it's an open class for the public, and there's a number of different type of people attending the class, from those who are young and those who are elders, and those who are new and seeking knowledge, and those who are older and seeking knowledge, those who have foundations and those who do not, and the likes like this. The people are different levels. At this time, the teacher, he will choose the path of moderation, and he will not be extremely slow and mention the issues in great generalization, and he will not likewise go too quick and mention the affairs in great detail and losing the people. Rather, he will choose in the type of this gathering the moderate course. That way all of the people will benefit. Those who are new to knowledge or in the beginning stages, they will still have a benefit and they will not be lost. And likewise, those who are in the higher stages of knowledge, they will not be bored. Rather, they will benefit likewise and take their review, or even possibly learn some more and new beneficial information as well. But it will be in a methodology of moderation. All of these affairs are something that the teacher, he keeps in mind whenever he's preparing the class. And this is like what Allah Azza wa Jal, He has commanded in His book. He says, وَلَكِنْ كُونُوا رَبَّانِيِّينَ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تُعَلِّمُونَ الْكِتَابَ وَبِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَدْرُسُونَ. ولكن كونوا, يعني ولكن قل لهم يا محمد, and he means say to them, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that you must be ربانيين. ولكن كونوا ربانيين, but you must be ربانيين بما كنتم تعلمون الكتاب وبما كنتم تدرسون, from that which you teach from the book and that which you study. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he mentioned about this word here, الربانيون, that they are al-hukama, ulama, hulama. They are the people of wisdom and knowledge and forbearance. The people of wisdom and knowledge and forbearance. So the Rabbani, he has hikmah, he has wisdom, he has experience with knowledge and the path of knowledge and seeking and teaching knowledge. And likewise, he's got ilm that is firm. So he's well-rounded in the affairs that he's teaching and discussing. And likewise, he has hilm, he has forbearance, and he's not quick, and he's not hasty, and he's not reckless, and the likes like this. So this is from the descriptions of the Rabbani. Likewise, it's been mentioned, Al-Rabbani alladhi yurabbi an-nasa bisigari al-ilmi qabla kibarihi. That the Rabbani, he's the one who cultivates and raises the people with the small knowledge before the big knowledge. This is what Al-Bukhari, he mentioned ta'liqan in the book of knowledge in Sahih al-Bukhari, in the chapter Babu al-Ilmi qabla al-Qawli wal-Amal. And then he mentioned a number of benefits, in closing with this one here. يقال الرباني الذي يربي الناس بصغار العلم قبل كباره. That the Rabbani, he is the one cultivates and he raises and he builds up the people with the small knowledge before the big knowledge. The small knowledge doesn't mean that it's insignificant. The small knowledge in Islam is great. And if every Muslim had learned the small knowledge, what is considered the small knowledge here, then the ummah would be upright and steadfast. The small knowledge doesn't necessarily mean that it's light. What is intended here, that which takes precedence and that which is most important from the obligatory affairs first and foremost. Building the proper creed and proper belief. He will start here. So the proper creed and belief, that's not small knowledge, this is major knowledge. This is the foundation. What is intended here is that he's building them up step by step, little by little, with that which takes precedence first and foremost in obligation and importance. In obligation and importance. He will start in this manner and after that move to the next one and the next one accordingly, according to the importance and the priority of knowledge. So from the most important affairs for the teacher to realize, and in order for his teaching and education to be according to the sunnah, then he has to be aware of this affair of a-tadarruj. He has to be aware of this affair of a-tadarruj fi talib al-ilmi wa ta'limihi. The foundation for this is the hadith of Mu'adh radiyallahu anhu, whenever he was sent to Al-Yemen. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he mentioned that you're coming to a people from the people of the book. إِنَّكَ تَأْتِي قَوْمًا مِنْ أَهْلِ كِتَابٍ فَلْيَكُنْ أَوَّلَ مَا تَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَيْهِ شَهَادَةُ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. شَهَادَةُ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. So let the first thing that you call them to be the shahada and la ilaha illallah. فإنهم أطاعوك لذلك فأعلمهم أن الله افترض عليهم 5 صلوات في كل يوم وليلة. If they obey you in that, then you inform them that Allah has made obligatory for them to pray 5 prayers every day and every night. فإنهم أطاعوك لذلك until the end of the hadith. And then after that the zakat and the likes like this. And the likes like this. So the people of knowledge have derived a great benefit from this, and that is that you must prioritize in seeking knowledge. And you must prioritize in learning. And that da'wah, it has priorities. And the first priority is the call to the shahada and la ilaha illallah. Wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And you clarify this and you plant this in the heart of the people and you make it beloved to them by showing them the evidences and teaching them this affair and the issues of the creed and the belief first and foremost. And then after that which is most important, which would be the salah. And the key to salat, miftahu salati al-tuhur. So likewise, these are from the most important affairs that one will begin with whenever he's learning and seeking knowledge, and likewise whenever he's teaching. So in this manner, a teacher, he will be Rabbani. The scholars, they differed about this word here, Rabbani. Where is it derived from? If it's derived from Rabba yurubu, it has a similar meaning of a tarbiyah. Yani Rabba yurubu Rabban. This is the word that Ar-Rabb is derived from, or has the same derivative, Ar-Rabb, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He is the Lord and the creator and the provider and the sustainer, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He is also the one who raises and nourishes the people. So here, from this understanding, Ar-Rabbani had a nisbatun ila Rabbi subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this means that the Rabbani, Al-Alim Al-Rabbani, lahu silatun qawiyatun bir-Rabbi al-Alamin. له سيرة قوية برب العالمين. That this word here, Ar-Rabbani, he is a scholar that's Rabbani. He is someone who has a strong connection with the Lord of the worlds. That he's somebody that has a strong connection with the Lord of the worlds. Meaning that he's a person of knowledge and application. He's a person of knowledge and application, and after that, following that up with education, teaching, and cultivation. So therefore, he will not be considered Rabbani until he gathers all these affairs here. He has al-ilm al-nafi' wal-amal al-salih. He has knowledge, beneficial knowledge, along with coupled with the application of that in the righteous actions, and likewise he has along with that teaching and education and cultivation. At this time, he will be considered Rabbani. So he first Rabba nafsuhu ala al-ilm wa ala al-din. First, he cultivate himself. He cultivate himself upon the beneficial knowledge and the righteous actions until he rectified his own soul with that knowledge and application, and then he began to call the people. And according to how well a person performs this affair will determine how much success and happiness and joy he has in this life and the hereafter. And this is the means for the completion and the perfection of the human being, that he will gather between these affairs here, between knowledge and application and calling to Allah Azza wa Jal. Between knowledge and application and calling to Allah Azza wa Jal. This is the means for success. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. So these are the means for success. A person, he will perfect himself and complete himself in this life with knowledge and righteous actions. And then he will begin to work and help and aid other people likewise to rectify their affair. In this manner, a person, he can achieve true happiness and joy in this life and in the hereafter. And according to his deficiency in these affairs will determine his deficiency with regards to that happiness and joy and that level and rank that he has in this life and in the hereafter. So from this aspect, the word Ar-Rabbani is understood in this manner. Other scholars, they mention rather Ar-Rabbani is from Rabba Yurabbi, Tarbiyatan. And they're very similar likewise. Wal-Rabb huwa al-Murabbi, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ar-Rabb huwa al-Murabbi. He's the one who raises and cultivates the people and brings them up from the darkness into the light, in deen and in religion, and likewise raising and cultivating and nourishing their bodies, raising and cultivating and nourishing his entire creation, and from that the people and mankind. So from this aspect, this is what is intended here. الَّذِي يُرَبِّي النَّاسِ بِصِغَارِ الْعِلْمِ قَبْلِ كِبَارِهِ. That he will raise and cultivate the people with the small knowledge before the big knowledge, meaning he will build them. He will build them foundation after foundation, little by little, until they move to the next level, and eventually they grow, and they become strong, and they become firm and steadfast in the knowledge and in the application. So this is a great benefit here, that this is what he's teaching you. If you follow these ways, then you will become mu'allimun rabbani. And this is the goal, to be a teacher who is cultivating and raising the people. So this means that he will order them and prohibit them, and he will display for them the beautiful and noble manners that he's talking about and calls to. And he will give them that which they need in order to grow and to become strong in their religion by the permission of Allah. This is no doubt a beautiful and a great benefit in methodology. And this is how the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he raised his companions. And if we look likewise with regards to tadarruj and prioritizing in da'wah, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he taught them at Tawheed for 10 years. The legislation came bitadarruj. Likewise, the law of Allah Azza wa Jal is revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam little by little, according to that which is most important. So for 10 years, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's striving to plant and grow and cultivate and nourish the seed of Tawheed in the hearts of his companions, radiyallahu anhum, until that was firm in their hearts. After that, the obligations began to come, little by little, according to importance. Little by little, according to importance. Because whenever that faith is cultivated in the heart, complying and abiding by that becomes easy. But a person who has weak faith, and that faith is not cultivated in his heart, performing the obligations becomes heavy for him, and avoiding the prohibitions becomes difficult for him. So with strong faith that is nourished and raised and cultivated in the heart, performing the obligations become easy, rather they become delightful. And avoiding and leaving the prohibitions become simple for him, rather they become from the sweetness and the delight of his heart, from the sweetest thing that he finds in his life and the delightness of his heart. And the likes like this, a person who will find sweetness in that, turning away and lowering his gaze, turning away from that which, from the cause of the desires and the whims, and the likes like this. And the likes like this. So the author, he says now, وَيُذَكِّرُ وَيَذْكُرُ الْأَحْكَامَ مُوَضِّحَةً بِالْأَمْثِلَةِ مِنْ غَيْرِ دَلِيلٍ لمن ينحفظ له الدليل. Wallahu alam, there's supposed to be a la here. لمن لا ينحفظ له الدليل فإن جهل دليل بعضها ذكره له ويذكر الدلائل لمحتملها. He says, and he will mention the rulings clarified with examples, with examples without mentioning the evidence, for the one he's not able to memorize or understand the evidence. He says if he's ignorant of the evidence or some of that, he will mention that. يذكر الأحكام موضحة بالأمثلة من غير دليل لمن ينحفظ له الدليل فإن جهل دليل بعضها ذكر له ويذكر الدلائل لمحتملها. هذه عبارة تحتاج إلى مراجعة فاتني هذا. He mentions the rulings and clarifying them by examples من غير دليل, without mentioning the evidence. without mentioning the evidence. لمن ينحفظ له الدليل فإن جهل الدليل بعضها ذكره له. For the one who is not able to bear the evidence, and if he's ignorant of the evidence, he will mention some of that. ويذكر الدلائل لمحتملها, and he mentions the evidence for those who can bear that, for those who can bear that. Referring now to the issue of the level of the students likewise, and he observes this affair. From the students, there are those who are able to understand the issues with the evidence, and there are those who are not able to understand the issues with the evidence. So if a person he is a beginner in knowledge, the first thing the teacher will strive to do is يُصَوِّرُ لَهُ الْمَسَألَةِ. It's called taswir al-masail. He will try to help the student to picture the issue that's being discussed. To picture the issue that's being discussed. And many times the issues in the religion, some of them are different and some of them are similar. Some of them are related and they can easily become mixed up. Or maybe by discussing the knowledge, a person is not able to visualize that or picture that. So before he can truly understand the issue and the ruling that's derived from that, and understand the evidence and how it's applied to that, he has to be able to picture the issue. For example, if it's the first time an individual he ever heard of the issue of wiping on the socks, before you talk about the ruling and before you talk about the proof and before you talk about the details of that and when it's allowed and how many days and how many nights and how it's performed and when it will be accepted and what would invalidate that, so on and so forth, first you have to help the individual understand the issue and to picture the issue. To picture the issue. After he pictures the issue, now you can clarify for him the ruling. And now he'll be able to understand. And this is sufficient for him. For example, likewise the issues of wudu as well, even before wiping on the socks. A person, he never made wudu before. A new Muslim, for example. We're teaching him how to make ablution and to purify himself before the salat. It's not from the wisdom to mention to him all of the narrations. Well, the Prophet ﷺ, he said this and he did this. Or to mention to him the ayat of wudu and the likes like this. Or the hadith of Uthman with regards to the wudu. And so on and so forth. Or to mention to him the difference of opinions about the scholars and the issues of wudu. Rather, in this time and in this stage, you just tell him that you make it like this. You make it like this. And he follows you and he does what you say. And this will suffice him. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. So he's not able to understand the evidence. He's not able to understand the proof. You can tell him that in the Quran and the Sunnah, it's mentioned like this. But to go into great details, it will disturb his mind. Maybe he will not be able to bear that, understand that, or he'll get lost easily. So therefore, what's beneficial for him is just to tell him the ruling and clarify for him the way to do that. As for the person who has grown some in the knowledge, and he's able to comprehend the evidence, then you will mention for him the ruling coupled with the evidence. Then after he has been able to picture and visualize the issue. After picturing and visualizing the issue and understanding the ruling, then after that, if you mention the evidence along with that, now he'll be able to understand the aspect of how this is a proof for this particular issue. So then this is likewise something that is clarified. No doubt the religion is masail wa dalail, any evident issues and proofs, and it's incumbent to couple these affairs together and to raise the people upon understanding the religion based upon the proofs, but also looking at the same time of the level of the people in the beginning while they're learning. So some issues it will be more beneficial not to mention the proof directly or in great detail for certain individuals according to their stage and according to their level. And according to the particular issue. So the teacher, he has to know all of these affairs or be aware of all of these affairs. And then as for the one who is in a greater level than that, he's able to picture the issue, he knows the ruling. Now you can clarify for him the evidence, and he will also be able to understand, inshallah, he will also be able to understand the point of evidence and how this hadith is a proof for this issue, or the aspect of how this verse is in accordance to being a proof for this subject here. And this ruling here is derived from that. Then he will understand that. Then after that, there's another level of the student where he may reach where he is higher than that, and he will be able to not only picture the issue, and understand the ruling and know the evidence. Likewise, he will be able to clarify and refute the people who are in opposition to that position. and the people who are in opposition to that position. So this is a higher level. So now he'll be able to picture the issue. He'll know the evidence for that and the aspect of how that's a proof for this particular ruling, and likewise how to discuss this affair and clarify the weakness of the positions that oppose that position. So we have, with regards to the levels of the students, we have the mubtadi, the one who's a beginner. Then we have the one who's mutawassil, he's in the middle. And then we have the one that's considered a muntahi. He's in the top, from the bigger students of knowledge. So the teacher, he will observe the likes of these affairs, and this is what is intended, and this is what is intended here, So he says, وَيُبَيِّنُ الدَّلِيلَ الضَّعِيفَ لِأَلَّا يَغْتَرَّ بِهِ فَيَقُولُ اسْتَدَلُوا بِكَذَا وَهُوَ ضَعِيفٌ لِكَذَا. So likewise, he will clarify. Before that, he said, وَيَذْكُرُ مَا يَرِدُ عَلَى الْمَسْأَلَةِ وَجَوَابَهُ إِنْ أَمْكَنَهُ. And likewise, he will mention that which is related to this issue from the criticism or from that which the people have found fault with regards to particular statements and positions, and he will respond to that. If it's possible. Meaning that sometimes in particular issues there will be differences of opinion. And again, he will, if it's possible to clarify and the student can bear that, he will clarify this. Now he will mention the ruling and the evidence, and then also now he will mention the statements of the scholars with regards to that. And then he will clarify the one that's strong and why it's strong, and then he'll mention the other positions that of the people of knowledge and the evidences that they used and why those are considered weak, and why their positions are considered weak and this one is considered strong. And now this is from the greatest this is from the greatest aspects of having fiqh in the religion. That the true fiqh in the religion is not to know the position or the fatwa of your shaykh only, or the position or the fatwa of one shaykh only, and the likes like this, but rather to know the evidence, to know the fatwa of the shaykh, and to know the evidence of the shaykh and the aspect of how the shaykh is using that as an evidence, and why this one is stronger than the other statements that are made in this particular issue. Now he will have fiqh. This is true understanding in the religion. So from this, the scholars of fiqh, the fuqaha, they say, لَمْ يَشُمَّ رَائِحَةَ الْفِقْهِ مَنْ لَمْ يَعْرِفِ الْخِلَافِ. That the one who did not know the difference of opinions of the scholars, he did not even smell the scent of true fiqh and jurisprudence in al-Islam. So in the beginning, he will be mentioning the fatwa that is rajih, the one that's strongest, and according to that which the teacher he sees. And if he continues to go down the path of knowledge, he will also be introduced to other statements and to other positions, and then it will be clarified to him why these are strong and why those are weak, why this one is strong and why those are weak, and the likes like this. So this is indeed a beautiful way of learning, and this is also by observing the levels of the students. And you will not give the one that cannot bear that which he cannot bear, because it will be too heavy for him. And as for the one who can bear that, then he will give that if it's possible, and he will clarify that. So he said, وَيُبَيِّنُ الدَّلِيلَ الضَّعِيفَ لِأَلَّا يَغْتَرَّ بِهِ, and he will clarify the weak evidence likewise, so he will not be deceived by that. فَيَقُولُ اسْتَدَلُّوا بِكَذَا وَهُوَ ضَعِيفٌ لِكَذَا. So he will say that these particular people of knowledge, they have used this as an evidence for this issue, and this issue and their evidence, or their statement and their evidence, is weak because of this and that, because of this and that. So he will clarify if it's possible. So we see the likes of the works of hadith. They're authored in this manner many times. Any of the works of hadith that are not titled sihah, the works of hadith that are not titled sihah, considered from the authentic collections. For example, at the head of them, Abu Dawood, and after that, At-Tirmidhi, and also An-Nasa'i wa Ibn Majah. These books here, and other than them likewise, they have narrations in them that are at the highest level of authenticity, and they have narrations in them that are lower than that in authenticity, and they have narrations in them that are weak, and some of them have narrations in them that are very weak. Even in some of these books, you will find narrations that are considered at the lowest level, that are considered at the lowest level of weakness and considered fabricated. They're found, and this can be found there, and there's wisdom behind that. It's not like Abu Dawood, for example, rahimahullah, he didn't know that the hadith was weak. He didn't know the hadith was weak, but he will mention the chapter title, and then after that he will mention the narrations that are related to this particular issue, and then also along with that he'll mention a narration that's weak. And the wisdom behind that is clarified here in the statement of An-Nawawi. يعني ليعرفوا أنه ضعيف وأن فلان وفلان استدلوا به. So he will mention these weak narrations that are contrary to the narration that he mentioned in the beginning that's authentic, to clarify that there are some people of knowledge who have another position, and their evidence was this hadith here that is weak. So based upon that, their position is also going to be weak in this particular subject because the evidence they use is weak. So there's wisdom behind mentioning weak narrations in the books of hadith. You'll find that likewise in Bulugh al-Maram. And Bulugh al-Maram, sometimes you'll find narrations that are weak. And the reason for that is to make it apparent and to make it known that there are scholars who have taken positions contrary to what the previous narrations refer to, and their evidence was this hadith here and the likes of that, and their evidence is weak. So you should not be deceived by that particular statement or that particular position. So all this here, whether the teacher says it directly or the author like this, he mentions it in this manner, this is all from nasiha. This is all from sincere advice. So he will clarify these issues here. They will clarify these issues here. Again, this is for the student who can handle that. Who can handle that. A new Muslim, for example, or a new student of knowledge, he's not going to be able to handle the difference of opinions of the scholars. Maybe you will not even mention that to him, that there's a difference of opinion of the scholars. If he's asking about wiping on the socks, we'll say, well, the Shafi'iyya, they said this, and the Hanabila, they said this, and the Malikiyya, they said, and then you go in all these different, and then this one is strong and this one is weak, or they have a weak. This is going to lose him very fast, and maybe it could harm him in his religion, and maybe he would even have doubts because he didn't understand these affairs. So you mention to him that which is correct, and if he's able to understand one hadith or two, then you tell him that. Or it would suffice just to say that it's reported authentically on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he did this, and while the teacher he knows what he's talking about, he's qualified to say the likes of these affairs. So this is also again very beneficial for the teachers to realize and to be aware of. He says, وَيُبَيِّنُ الدَّلِيلَ الْمُعْتَمَدَ لِيُعْتَمِدْ, and he will clarify likewise the evidence that is relied upon so that it will be relied upon. He will clarify the evidence that is relied upon so that it can be relied upon. Yani in this particular issue. So he says, وَيُنَبِّهُهُمْ عَلَى غَلَطِ مَنْ غَلِطَ فِيهَا مِنَ الْمُصَنِّفِينَ. So he says, and likewise he would inform them and draw their attention to the errors of those who have fallen into error from those who authored the works. And he in reference to the previous scholars. And he meaning that whenever a person is reading in the works of the scholars of the past and the present, but Wallahu A'lam, he's referring specifically to the past, but no doubt the past and the present. This is something that's very important to understand, that ليس كل ما في الكتب مسلم. ليس كل ما في الكتب مسلما. Not every single thing that's written inside the books of the scholars is you should just agree to that and accept that, and it's 100% truth. La, this is not the case. Sometimes there are errors there, sometimes there are mistakes there, and this is something that we should be aware of. And likewise, we discussed this previously briefly. And the way of the people of the Sunnah, if they are noble and upright, they will clarify that mistake so that the religion can be upright and affirmed, and the people can be steadfast upon their deen, along with also making an excuse for that particular individual if he's from the people of the Sunnah and he's known for his virtue and his steadfastness of being upon the correct path and the way of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So they will maintain his honor and his respect, and at the same time they will mention his error and his mistake in order for that to be clarified and for the religion to be upright. He's referring now to issues that are very, very, very important. And this is موقف المدرس من أخطاء أهل العلم. What is the position of the teacher with regards to the mistakes and the errors of the scholars of the Sunnah? And this should likewise be the position of the students as well, and also the position of the layman. So first and foremost, we must know that there are important issues in order for the knowledge to truly be beneficial. First, husnu al-qasdi. Husn al-qasd wa niyyah. He has to have a good intention. He has to have a good intention. Wa husn al-adab. And also he has to have good manners. Good intention coupled with good manners. In this manner, the knowledge will be beneficial for him. As for if he's losing one of these affairs, maybe he has a good intention, but he has bad manners. Then his path upon knowledge will be difficult for him, and he's going to run into problems, and the likes like that, and the likes like this. Or even if he had good manners, but he had a bad intention, which is not good manners, then likewise this person is going to be a problem. So with regards to knowledge, there must be knowledge and good intention in seeking knowledge. Likewise, noble manners in seeking knowledge. And also there must be justice. And a person, he must be free from desires. He must be free from desires. He doesn't look at the knowledge and look at the difference of opinions. He doesn't approach them with the idea in his heart, I want this. I want this. He'll look at a particular issue and then in his heart, this is what he want to do. So then he'll study the issue and the differences of opinions based upon what he wants to do. And then therefore he will choose the position that's in accordance with his whims and desires. So therefore he's only following his whims and desires. لابد من التجرد من الهوى في طالب العلم. A person, he has to free his heart from all desires while seeking knowledge. The only thing that he will seek is the pleasure of Allah. So he'll look at the difference of opinions of the scholars, not looking for what he wants to follow, not looking for what he wants to do, but looking for the truth. Looking for the truth. Somebody who's not able to do this, he will follow one of the scholars, and he'll blind follow them. And he will say that he's blind following them, and he's allowed to do that. One of the upright scholars in a particular issue. But the one who's going to look into these evidences and use one of them as a proof for what he is upon, he has to look with a pure heart. And he has to free himself from desires and look for what is pleasing to Allah Azza wa Jal. And then choose the position based upon that. Based upon that. So this is with regards to the difference of opinions of the scholars. The difference of opinion of the scholars. We have to have good intention. We have to have manners. We have to be just. Free ourselves from desires and from whims. And we have to likewise know, barakallah fikum, that al-ilmu lahu lisan. Al-ilm al-shar'i lahu lisan. The knowledge, the legislative knowledge, it has a tongue. It has a lugha. Lughatul ilm. Al-ulama lahum lugha. Al-ulama lahum lugha. Lughatul ilm. The scholars, they have a manner of speaking. They have the language of knowledge. The language of knowledge. If the tongue becomes corrupt in the knowledge, then this brings much corruption to the ummah. Wallahu al-musta'an. And today we find that many people, they speak about knowledge and they don't have the language of knowledge. They don't know the language of the scholars with regards to knowledge, specifically with regards to differences of opinions. The people of knowledge, whenever they discuss the difference of opinions, and whenever they prefer one over the other, or they mention that one is stronger than the other, or another one is weak, they approach that with nobility and honor, and without dropping the right or the status or the rank of that particular scholar. Again, we're talking about scholars of the Sunnah. Scholars of the Sunnah. That they will say that so-and-so, he made this, so-and-so, his position is this. And maybe he will say, وَالْأَظْهَرُ أَنَّهُ كَذَا وَكَذَا أو الْأَصَحُّ كَذَا وَكَذَا وقال به فلان وقال به بعضهم والصواب كذا وكذا والله أعلم. They'll make statements like this. They'll say that the scholars, they differed in this issue, and some of the scholars, they mentioned this. Allah knows best what is correct is this one. Allah knows best based upon the evidence. What is heavy in the scales of evidence is this. Or Allah knows best what is more apparent and closest to the evidence is this. And the likes like this. And they will never approach, for example, something that all of the scholars have agreed upon, like the Jumhur. Like the Jumhur ulama have agreed upon. And from the four Imams, for example. From the four Imams, for example, they agreed upon that particular issue. He will not come along and be like, oh, this statement right here, هذا قول باطل. This is a statement of falsehood. هذا لا دليل عليه. This has no proof or evidence for it whatsoever. And then the scholars for over 1,000 years, they had agreed upon that, and they were upon that way. And then somebody will come today and say the likes of these words. هذا لا دليل عليه. There's no proof for that whatsoever. هذا قول باطل. That's a statement of falsehood. Like this, and indicating like these people who have preceded us, these great and virtuous scholars, they're following their whims and desires, and they're making statements without any proof or evidence. This individual here, he doesn't understand the evidence or the proof or even the position of those scholars in the first place. He should not be speaking. And in any case, even if it appeared to an individual who's qualified that statement that the four Imams agreed upon is not the correct statement, he will say that in a good manner. He'll say, Wallahu alam alladhi dhahara li kada wa kada. He'll say, Allah knows best what is clear to me, what is apparent for me. بعد البحث والتفتيش, after reviewing and looking over the issue and weighing up the evidences, is this. And Allah knows best. and Allah knows best. So the point now is to have noble manners when discussing the difference of opinions of the scholars, without belittling them or belittling their positions and the likes like this. And even if a person he disagreed with one of them, he would do that in a noble manner. He would do that with a noble manner, and he will honor them and respect them. And the scholars, they do not have these positions and these differences based upon desires. They differ because of their understanding of the evidence or the evidences that reach them. And many times the evidence may reach a particular scholar, and the avenue it came to him was weak. And the times, for example, particularly of the 4 Imams, and immediately after them, the sciences of Islam and the hadith, they're not all collected in book form in one place like we have now today. So maybe the evidence reached one of them and it was weak. And maybe it reached another one and it was not weak. Or maybe he reached one of them, and then another evidence reached another one but didn't reach them. There are many reasons why they would differ, or the way that they understand the evidence. Maybe they'll all have the exact same proof and they differ in their position and their ruling based upon the difference in their understanding. So no one should come now and belittle them and find fault with them, or mention that their statements have no proof or no evidence, and say the likes like this. Even if it appeared to a person like that, he would not say that. He would not say that. He would have manners. He would say what is apparent is this, or what is closest to the truth is this, or what is heavy in the scale is this, al-rajih is this, as-sahih is this, and the likes like this. This is very, very important, because today we see individuals, they lash their tongues on the scholars. And from the easiest things for one of them to do is to speak bad about the noble scholars of hadith and the scholars of the sunnah. Rather, some people and some communities and some masajid, may Allah guide them, they will not accept you until you backbite and lash some of the scholars. If you lash one of them or 2 of them, they will accept you and you'll be the biggest Salafi in their eyes. And if you do not do that, then they will not accept you and they will not take you. And even some of them will pick a specific, you had this one, what do you say about this one? If you don't say something about this one, then you're this and that. It's very sad. It's very sad. That which they lack here is the tarbiyah. They didn't have the mudarris, the rabbani. They didn't have the mudarris al-rabbani. This is the musibah. They didn't have the one teaching them, cultivating them upon the noble manners, upon the lofty path of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the way of the scholars of hadith properly, and the likes like this. Rather, they had, wallahu musta'an, some gang-banging type. This is something that we can say today. This like gangbangers in their understanding, street people, and the likes like this, and they're teaching Salafiyah. And wallahi, what comes from that is much misunderstanding and trouble and misrepresentation, and it's a very foul and a lowly way. Wallahu musta'an. It's been mentioned about Al-Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala that min manaqibihi, from the virtues. If you read the biography of Al-Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he died in the year 256. From the virtues the scholars mention about him, talattufuhu bil-ibara, that he was very gentle and precise in the words that he used. And it's known that Al-Imam al-Bukhari, he's from the greatest of the scholars of al-Jarh wa Ta'dil. From the greatest of the scholars of al-Jarh wa Ta'dil. He has a book called Tarikh al-Kabir, which is one of the fundamental books with regards to al-Jarh wa Ta'dil, criticizing the narrators. But in this book, the manner that he speaks, he chose the words that were the most humble and likewise the most gentle and precise. So he would not just, very few times would he say fulanun kadhab, or matruk al-hadith. The likes, he would have sometimes he would say this, but he would also choose other words. From looking at and examining his works, the scholars, they said that he would say fihi nadhar, fulanun fihi nadhar. And this person here, we need to look at him. You have to check out his issue or review his affair. This means this person, his narrations are not accepted whatsoever. But he chooses the soft word, the easy word, and the likes like this. And he mentioned even himself what is narrated from him. He said, I hope that I meet Allah and He will not take me to account for backbiting anybody. So he would choose these words even whenever he's criticizing the narrators and mentioning their weaknesses and deficiencies in the memorization or in their religion. He would choose the gentle words, or the words that are mannered and the likes like this. He would not choose rude words and harsh words. Like this, alhamdulillah, Shaykh Abdul Muhsin, I remember from him. Shaykh Abdul Muhsin, hafidhahullah ta'ala, I remember from him many times whenever there is an issue that is presented or a statement of one of the scholars that he did not agree with, he will say, هذا الكلام غير واضح. And it's clear whenever you read it that your mind comes to your mind, there's an error here. That this is contrary to some of the principles that we have learned. But whenever he's mentioning it, he will say, هذا الكلام غير واضح. هذا الكلام غير واضح. This right here, this is not clear. What he's saying here, this is not clear. What is intended by that, that's not clear, like this. And then he will mention what is correct. According to the principles and the scholars of hadith, they say this, or the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ mentioned like this. But the way that he addressed that mistake or that statement that is not in accordance to what is proper, he said, many times I remember, هذا غير واضح. هذا الكلام هنا غير واضح. And this is not clear. And then he would turn away from that and clarify that which is proper and keep going. And they would say that often, likewise, هذا فيه نظر. هذا القول فيه نظر. فيه نظر. This is a general way of saying that statement there or that position is not strong and the scale of evidence. Saying that position there is not strong in the scale of evidence. Likewise, you see here, and Nawawi, what did he say? غلط. He used the word غلط. He didn't say خطأ. He didn't say خطأ. So in the Arabic language, غلط, it means خطأ. But in the custom of the people, if you say غلط فلان or غلط فلان like this, then it's light. And so and so he made an error. He made an error. He made a mistake. Like this. But if you say أخطأ فلان, then it's like now it seems bigger. It seems bigger in the heart. So if you say أخطأ الشيخ فلاني, so subhanallah, the Sheikh so and so he made a major mistake. He fell into error. He says something like this. But if you say غلط, then it seems in the custom of the people that it's lighter, it's not as major, or doesn't sound as bad. So this is how you mention these affairs. This is how you mention these affairs. So he says, وَيُنَبِّئُهُمْ عَلَى غَلَطِ مَنْ غَلَطَ فِيهَا مِنَ الْمُصَنِّفِينَ فَيَقُولُ مَثَلًا هَذَا هُوَ الصَّوَابُ وَأَمَّا مَا ذَكَرَهُ فُلَانٌ فَغَلَطٌ أو ضعيف قاصدا النصيحة لئلا يغتر به لا لتنقص القائل فإن الانتقاد إنما يكون للقول لا للقائل. So he says, so he would inform the students likewise of the mistakes of those who make mistakes in their works. And he will say, for example, this one is correct. And as for the statement of so-and-so, then it is غلط. He made an error here. He made an error here. Or he'll say, فضعيف. As for the position of so-and-so, then this one is weak. And he weakened the scale of evidence. Weakened the scale of evidence. And he says, intending by way of that sincere advice, so the student will not be deceived or tricked by that statement. So again, he has a beautiful intention. While he's saying, he's mentioning somebody made a mistake, not to belittle him, he says. Not to find fault with him or to belittle him. Not to find fault with the person who made the statement, or to belittle him, or to criticize the one who made the statement. He says it with a beautiful intention so the student will not be deceived, not to criticize and find fault with the one who made the statement. And he says because the criticizing is only for the statement and not for the person. Again, this is with regards to the people of the Sunnah. As for a person of innovation, his statement will be criticized and his falsehood will be made known and his name will be mentioned and the likes like this. Again, we're talking about the mistakes of the people who are respected from the people of the Sunnah, who are well known, their positions and their status and their rank and their efforts. So this is how we deal with them. We deal with them in this manner like this. And the people of knowledge, they say, you clarify the mistake of the statement and you keep the honor of the one who made the statement. And when he's from the people of knowledge. ليعرف له فضله وليعرف للحق أصله. ليعرف للعالم فضله وليعرف للحق أصله. So that the virtue of the scholar is known, and so the foundation of the truth is known likewise and preserved. So the point is to clarify the truth, not to belittle the people, not to belittle the people. This is likewise very, very important. Very, very important. The people of knowledge, they mention لحوم العلماء مسمومة, that the flesh of the scholars is poisoned, and the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at the head of them, they're the people of knowledge. At the head of them, they're the people of knowledge. ألا إن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. And the hadith of the wali, ومن عاد لي وليا فقد آذنته بحرب. Whoever harms or has enmity to one of my wali, then verily I have announced war with him. And in the verse here, ألا إن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون, Ibn Kathir, he mentioned the issues of this affair and this hadith of the wali, and in the end he mentioned likewise after that those who have the highest rank in that are the people of knowledge. The scholars of the Sunnah, they're the true awliya. They're the true awliya of Allah. And the people of knowledge, as I mentioned, if the scholars of hadith are not the awliya of Allah, then Allah, He doesn't have a wali. He doesn't have a wali. Yani they're the true awliya, the most beloved to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Warathatul anbiya. They're the inheritors of the prophets. So to take enmity with them, or to belittle them, or to mock them, or to spread their faults unrightfully, and the likes like this, the scholars of the sunnah, then many times this person, he has a bad outcome. Many times this person, he has a bad outcome. A bad outcome. I have seen this. I have seen this. And Allahu Akbar, this particular text here reminded me of many events that occurred in my time in Medina. From that, there was an individual that he had accepted Islam. We were trying to work with him. He was always seeming kind of strange, but we tried to work with him and be nice to him. And I remember one time I invited him to the dars of Sheikh Abdul Muhsin. So he came with me. And then after that, I invited him to come again, and then to come again. And after a few times, time after time. One time, finally, he said he's not going to come. I said, why not? He said, because he stutters too much. I said, you're not going to come to Sheikh Abdul Muhsin's class? He said, no. I said, why not? He said, I'm going to go to so-and-so. I was like, why are you going to go there? And he mentioned somebody else. He said, because he stutters too much. Mocking the Sheikh. And then he started mocking the Sheikh. This same student right here, well, I swear by Allah, it was maybe a few years later whenever there's a SWAT team from the Saudi government came and pulled him out of his room and put him in jail and exiled him and kicked him out of Medina for aiding and supporting ISIS. The point is that the people who belittle the scholars and they talk bad about them, many times they have a foul outcome if they do not repent. So this is something likewise the believers should recognize and be cautious from. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه